Right, hello again. Double whammy of what if Deku was a Spartan? In the last episode, there was a bit of spiciness between Izuku Midoriya and Ochaku Uraraka being in the shower with each other, and they are now at a meeting with Lord Admiral Hood, or Admiral Hood. I call him Lord Admiral Hood because he acts like one, because he's got the authority. Anyway, a meeting with Lord Admiral Hood, as I said, as Uraraka, Deku, Katsuki, Bakugo, and Izumi Midoriya all turn up and salute, because also, Class 1B and Class 1A, most of the students have been turned into Spartans. And a lot of others did not make it. May they all rest in peace. Anyway, as Lord Admiral Hood says, I do not want to hear your excuses, just listen carefully. As we all know, these kids are now going to have their final tests, and their tests are now going to be with their quirks to see if they actually work in Spartans. We do not know if it's going to be good or not. The results could be catastrophic, but these are virtually the new projects that have come to full fruition. If this works, a lot of people who want to join the military can rise up the ranks to become ODSDs, or even better, become Spartans. But only the ones who show adaptability and can take on multiple tasks and complete the mission. As he then points to Deku and Mudaraka, as he calls them by their code names of Titan and Wraith. As he says, Titan, Wraith, come forward please. As they both walk forward, standing there and salute, saying, yes sir. As he says, I am giving you the crosses, both of you the crosses of valor. You went above and beyond the call of duty to not only protect civilians, but to hold off the enemy for as long as possible. And not only that, you helped train the next generation of Spartans. I don't know the full extent of the Spartan project myself. That's up to the High Council to tell anybody else that. As he then points to Momo Yadirose, saying, Spartan 5 to 760. Step forward, as Momo does, saying, yes sir, yes Admiral. As he says, I'm giving you authorization over your teams, over a team of your choosing. Considering of who your father is, and I have worked alongside him before, he would want you to prove yourself. So I am authorizing you to make a team and lead them, as I am assigning Izuku Midoriya to be your liaison, to have one member of an elite group. Well, consider all yourselves lucky you had two of the best Spartans training you, who were taught from one of the best themselves. Now, we have reports of a covenant of a Covenant plan that is in motion. We need you to go to these coordinates. Unfortunately, we cannot send Sierra 117 there himself. He, at the moment, is on a deployment mission, is actually on a mission at the minute. The Covenant have been pushing deeper into our territory and have seamlessly stopped at this location. As he pulls up a planetary picture, as Deku sees what planet it is, and he says, "It's Arcadia." But why is the chief? But why did the Covenant end up there and suddenly stop? As Admiral Hood said, "We don't know." When you reach the ground, Omega Squad will, Omega Team will be on standby, waiting for you there. They are just as well known as you guys are now, and they have a lot more tactical information on the Covenant's movements, considering they've been watching them from the shadows. The Spirit of Fire was there not too long ago that stopped the Covenant's advance after Texas, Armstrong, and two other ships were fighting Covenant forces. Two of them were already destroyed. The Texas is venting atmosphere, and the Armstrong is critically damaged. So the Spirit of Fire couldn't ask them for any support. And just so you know, they had to keep as many ground forces on planet as they could until after a few more months have passed. The Covenant kidnapped a scientist named Professor Anders. She was assigned to the Spirit of Fire due to Dr. Halsey, and now that she is missing, the Spirit of Fire have gone after her mysterious abductors. We don't know why they have still stayed on Arcadia, and right now we don't care. We just need to get as many of them killed as possible to weaken their hold. So right now, I'm authorizing you lot to use lethal force on the Covenant at all times, but follow the instructions of the headhunter. As Azuka Midoriya salutes and says, "Yes, sir," as he tells Momo to get the four people that she can trust with her at all times. As she picks Bakugo, Ida, and Todoroki, and she says they're the three that I trust the most. As Deku says you need another one. As eventually she goes with Uraraka, saying, "I know she's another headhunter, but with both of your experiences, we could easily get this mission over and done with. But I'm going to ask you two not to interfere at any time during the mission. Just to act like you're another part of our squad, another part of the squad, and we should be able to do this without any trouble." As Azuka Midoriya and Uraraka Ochako salute, saying, "Yes, ma'am. Consider us part of your squad. You're the leader, so we'll listen to you. But just so you know, if you start faltering, we will take over. And we will send you back to do more training, get your confidence in leadership up." And she says, "Aye, aye." And Admiral Hood says, "Alright then." The mission starts in a few months, but your final tests start now. Let's see if your quirks work with all the augmentations. As eventually they start testing their quirks to see if they actually work well with the augmentations that they've been through. Edith actually helps him out a lot because of the augmentations, he's a lot more faster. He doesn't need to use Recipro Burst. And after a while, everybody sees how their quirks have been either altered or upgraded. Bakugo could use explosions much more effectively, and he's realised that he can use his hand to put his hand next to his other hand as his fingers make an OK sign, and he can shoot his explosions out of his hands that way, making a single condensed beam. All the others find different ways to use their quirks, as Deku and Uraraka do some more hand-to-hand combat training. Eventually, a few months before another no the last month before Deku, Uraraka, Momo, Todoroki, Ida, and Bakugo go on their mission. They make a quick pit stop into UA High and say, "Can we speak to Mei Hatsume?" As they say, she's not here today. She's fallen ill. As they say, okay then, just give her our thanks for the upgraded armor, or arms and legs, or arm and legs, arms and leg. Sorry. Let's just say will do. She should be back tomorrow. As they leave and say thank you, a bunch of students see the Spartan armor and immediately start geeking out because they hear so much about these Spartans. As they crowd around Deku and Uraraka, as some people want autographs, other people want to take pictures with them. As eventually they get a call from Halsey to help them out, get out of the situation that they were in. And she makes up a fake report that's saying that they're needed now. As they say, "Roger that, ma'am." As they push past people, saying sorry, but we've got to go. We've just been deployed for a mission. As they both run out of the school or high school, as all the students are sighing, saying, "Ah, we never got to take a picture or get any of their autographs." So eventually they arrive at an unspecified location as they contact Halsey, saying thank you for the help. We were trying to get out of that, but they just kept on coming. As she said, that's alright. The mission isn't till the start of next month anyway. So go home and train for a bit. As they go and train, Uraraka still is waiting to find another reason to catch up with Deku's number of 3 reasons. As eventually she finds one, where she sees a bunch of orphans pretending to be UNSC Spartans. As she taps him on the shoulder, saying, "I found my 3rd reason." As she points over to the orphans, as she says, "One day, can we?" As Deku says, "One day. Let's get this war over with first, before we go that far." As they both walk off, but before they walk off, one of the orphans says, "Hey, look, it's Spartans." All the kids run over and actually ask if they can ever become Spartans like them one day. As Azuka Midori and Uraraka laugh and say, "If you train hard and be a military man, find something you also want to protect, and that will always, and I mean always, help you get through the toughest of situations. Hell, even think of the people you love back home, and so they'll be proud to know that the person that they know of very well, that was living with them for most of their lives, has gone to the military and become a soldier to protect them." As eventually they leave after giving a rousing speech to the orphans, with the orphanage, um, with an orphanage member of staff walking out saying, "Okay, children, that's enough. I think the Spartans need some time alone for a bit because they need to most probably go to an area." As she bows, saying thank you for giving them a reason to keep on moving forward. Now that we know that the Spartans are real, their goals are to become like you guys. And you saying that will give them the boost they need to chase their dreams. She bows, saying thank you once again. Is to say, "Alright, that's alright." As Uraraka says, "We know what it's like to be like orphans anyway." As the staff member says, "Oh, I apologise, I didn't want to bring up any bad memories." And she says, "No, you didn't bring up any bad memories." As she slaps Deku around his backside as he sort of tenses up a bit and says, "Ow." As the orphanage as the staff member of the orphanage sort of giggles and says, "I see. Anyway, see you guys next time. And if you ever want to come back to see how the kids are doing, our doors are always open." And she gives a bow and walks off again. As then, as then Uraraka and Deku walk back home. Walking back home to see that the door's open. As they both get ready for combat, Deku pulls out his knife and spins it around. As Uraraka grabs a pistol from her side. As they open the door, to find that there was somebody inside trying to steal stuff. As Uraraka shouts, "Hey, what are you doing in my house?" As the person pulls a gun on her, saying, "Don't you dare move." As he realizes that she's wearing full body armor and is actually wearing a helmet. And the person realizes that this is a Spartan and says, "Oh shit. When I was hired to steal stuff from you, I didn't realize they were going to get me stealing stuff from a goddamn Spartan." As in, Izuku walks around the corner as well, saying it's not just one Spartan, it's two. As the person says, "Oh shit," again and jumps through a window and runs as fast as he can as Deku and Uraraka jump out the window going after him, eventually cornering him in a small alleyway, saying, "What the hell are you doing? What the hell were you after in our house?" As he says, "I was hired by a group of people They find information on a group of Spartans that constantly foil their plans. They call themselves the League of Villains, and I was just hired by them. It wasn't until I got to my dislocation that I thought that they seemed way too shifty. And now that I figured out that it was actually a group, two Spartans that were here, I didn't want anything to do with it, so I said screw it in my own head. If they catch me, I'll just spill the beans. So I'm spilling them now. The League of Villains are making something to battle you Spartans, and they killed the number one hero, All Might. Ever since you destroyed the first project of theirs, they knew that it was still strong enough to launch one of you guys off of your backside onto your backsides. So they've ramped up production of these things. There are dozens of them, ready and waiting to be mobilized. As Deku and Uraraka says, where's their main base? As he says, there's an old pub that was bought bought out by a mysterious owner, and the League of Villains have been using it as their headquarters. It goes by the name of the Lucky Stars. As Deku makes the joke saying it's about to be the unlucky star in a minute, or the unlucky stars in a minute. As they say thank you, as they then knock him out and take him to the police. As they then tell the heroes where the League of Villains are. As All Might says, finally, we can finally put all these criminals behind bars for good. As the police raid happens, but this time, as it does in canon, but this time without Bakugo and actually the Spartans there as well. As they once again knock on the door saying, "Pizza's here," and Shigaraki says, "Who the hell ordered a pizza?" As All Might busts through the door, along with Izuku Midoriya and Uraraka. As Shigaraki says it's those two again. "Kirigiri, get us out of here." As Kirigiri says I can't, as Fish Genius tangles him up. And before All Might could say, "We've got you now, villains," the Nomus start appearing as they all get sucked away. Uraraka and Deku get sent to where All for One is, and Kirishima, Bakugo, and a few others actually were confused of why there's so many disappearing people, eventually tracking them down to the same place in canon where Deku and the rest go. But this time they have their Spartan armor on, because they're all Spartans. As All for One walks out saying, if it isn't All Might, the number one asshole who took out my eyes." As All Might sees the figure and says, "All one for all." All for One. As All for One then says, "All Might, I see you brought pets with you as well, from Oni. I knew my pets may not be as strong as the first Nomu, but this should be easy for me still." As All Might and All for One square off, Deku and the other Spartans appear in different areas as they all surround all for One. Not All for One, One for All. No, Yeah, it's all for one. Sorry. As they say, you may be the arch enemy of All Might, but you've got several Spartans surrounding you, and we are all as tough and as strong as us, as the main man himself. It's all, all for one, all for one. Just laughs, saying, "Yes, but I can still take you on handedly." As eventually they all start fighting, the Spartans actually start firing their weapons at him, as he finds it hard to dodge all the bullets. There's some do nick him here and there, and All Might manages to land a punch smack to his face, breaking his helmet, and then says, "You bastards," as he then powers up all of his quirks and actually destroys the same amount of the city that he did as he did in canon. The news cameras report the entire thing as Deku gets like soccer punched up into the air, getting his helmet broken at the same time, causing a scar to go across his right eye. As Uraraka and the others all start going into hand-to-hand combat with him. All for one does try to take any quirks that he can, but realizing that these guys are augmented, he won't be able to take them. Not unless he takes their augmentations out, then starts taking their quirk. So in the end, he tries to kill Kirishima, but All Might jumps in the way and takes the blow. Eventually, other heroes turn up as All Might deflates into his skinny might form, which Deku, Uraraka, and the others didn't realize was going to happen because they didn't know about his injury. As they all stop fighting, as All for One laughed at him, saying, "Now the people get to see that their number one hero was a fraud." But the same thing happens in canon where everybody screams All Might. As Uraraka actually taps into the news and all the cameras to see what's happening, and actually has the volume. As she puts on loudspeaker through any speaker system she can find, saying, "Not so fast, Mister," as he even hears all of the citizens shouting for All Might. As this pisses him off, saying, "For God's sake, I show them their real hero, and they still celebrate you like you're the number one now. I'll show them what a number one villain can do." As he takes on all of the Spartans, eventually injuring Momo, Yeirozu, and the others to a point where they can no longer move. Uraraka was the last one standing, and she was giving All Might a hand up, but she was also giving All for One a bit of a hard time because he was constantly trying to take her out, of the game by crippling her, but she would always dodge him and get quite a few good hits in on him as well. As he eventually got really pissed off and used as much power as he could to get enough speed to catch her before she could even move, which he still wasn't able to for a little while, but eventually managed to grab hold of her leg and pull her towards him, then slam her as hard as he can go into the ground, causing a small crater. Now, for the Deku situation, after he was sent up flying, he hit the helicopter this time. All Might couldn't jump in front couldn't actually grab him. No, Gran Torino couldn't like grab Deku because he didn't know if Deku was alive or not. But after he hit the ground, he got back up slowly. After like a few hours, not a few hours, after a few minutes, he slowly gets back up, only to see Uraraka get slammed into the ground. As he loses his shit and says, "You fucking bastard. You shouldn't have done that. You shouldn't have done that in front of me." As All Might and All for One turn around to see Deku getting up. Slowly. As he sort of stumbles a bit after he fully gets up. And the news camera's actually focusing on him. He couldn't hear what he was saying, but everybody else could. As other heroes turn up. Endeavor, Mount Lady, and all the rest. This Deku just says, "You wanted to take something away from All Might, didn't you? You wanted something that he had. But now that we Spartans were here, you've had to try and change your plans just to kill us all. Or to even cripple us. Buddy, you should have crippled me first. Because now that you've just done that to somebody that I love, that I've loved with all my heart, and I would die for her, well, screw you going to prison. You're gonna die. Because you've just made this man very angry. You caused all this pointless damage and death. I can't even count the many civilians and children. The men, women, and children that you've now just killed. As the League of Villains is still there as this fight was going on. As they could hear this as well, and they actually do start getting terrified. As Toga goes in to stab him, he just simply grabs her and snaps her neck, making her fall to the floor. As Darby then tries to kill him with his flames, he ends up just having one of his arms broken with the bone showing. But doing the Doomslayer thing where he shoves the bone into the back of his mouth, and that kills him instantly. As all the other villains are getting taken out, Mr. Compressed gets scared and tries to compress Izuku Midoriya into a little ball, but only to find out that he's already been impaled by something. As it's the magnetic person, whoever the hell that is, winds up getting his or her own weapon turned against him. As he ends up having his or her own head crushed by it. A lot of people see this one man take on a group of villains and not leave any of them alive. As eventually a news reporter gets close, as he says, once again, you killed someone who you killed all these people and all the surrounding buildings just so you could make a point to All Might. And now you're going to hurt someone who I love. I think their deaths are justified. after the damage they have also caused, they are beyond going to prison. As eventually says he says this, I will never forgive you for this. None of my teammates will forgive you of this. As I, Titan, the Spartan Titan, give my life for the UNSC, for this world. I will make sure this man never makes it to the nearest prison alive. As all for one just laughs again, saying, "Ha! I just took out all of your so-called teammates. I sent you flying, and you're back up for more. Yes, you may have killed them, but they're worthless. They were nothing. I was going to take their quirks in the end. So you just killed them for no reason. They were all puppets to me." As Izuku Midoriya then runs at him, faster than what even All For One and All Might can even perceive. As All For One's head gets knocked back as he falls to goes flying across the air, goes flying. As All Might then finally sees where Izuku Midoriya went, right in front of him. As he said, "All Might, get up. Get up and take my team to the nearest hospital. This man has seriously stepped on the wrong tiger's neck, on the wrong tail today." As All Might says, "Do what you have to. The monster needs to go down." As he said, as Izuku Midoriya just says, "Yes, I am planning on taking him down. And I'm planning to make sure his body goes straight to hell. His soul, that his soul goes straight to hell. So please, get my people and any surviving civilian out of here. That goes to all you heroes." As all of the world hears this, as he continues saying, "If I find anyone who's trying to become like this All For One fella, they may want to rethink their life choices. Because after the damage that you've seen here today, you may want to realize that we are at war with a race that doesn't care. And you one day will see just what I mean when they come for Earth. And they will not show us mercy. And neither should we. But we need to show the Covenant that we are better than them. But for now, I am willing to forget all about that, just to deal with this bastard." As Izuku eventually finishes his little rant, as he clenches his fist, Uraraka gets up and reaches for his hand and grabs hold. And she says, Izuku, Please, don't let your anger control you for this. Just don't let it. Just don't give in to the anger. It's not worth it. As he pulls his hand away, saying, "For you, anything's worth it." As the news catches all this as well, as a lot of people actually are crying because this man that they just saw go on a rant was still sacrifice his life to save the ones that he loves. This news eventually gets to Overhaul as well, who says, so he thinks he can tell us what to do. How pathetic. Just because you're a Spartan doesn't mean anybody listens to you. As eventually Izuku Midoriya runs straight at All For One, followed by All Might, as All Might can only have a few more minutes left of his buff form. As he says, "I'll go with you. This battle is much mine as it is yours." As all the heroes eventually get all the injured out, the injured Spartans, but they couldn't check for any civilians, not while they're fighting. Eventually, All Might gets punched and he loses all of his. He goes back into his small Might form. As Uraraka, as Izuku Midoriya gets his helmet completely shattered. As All Might could possibly see his eyes, as his eyes turn into a fiery red. As Izuku's left hand catches on fire. As he says, "Die and go to hell." No, he doesn't say die, he just says, "Go straight to hell, you motherfucker." As he one punches him into the face. Now I'll say Izumi, and along with Izumi, who was actually there with Momo, she saw this and she noticed that her brother was very pissed off. Izumi's injuries were bad, but not so bad that she couldn't see what her brother was doing. So before she was taken away, she crawled using her one good arm because her left arm was broken, and both her legs were as well. She crawled over to Uraraka to see if she was alright. As she could see Uraraka just crying. As she says, "I'm sorry, Uraraka." And she says, "I'm not crying because of him being angry. I'm crying because I think his quirk just activated." As Azumi looks up to see that her brother's left hand is on fire. As her heart and eyes gleam, as she says, "Finally, this is new. I don't think any other Spartan can do this." As Deku walks over, he collapses. Endeavor actually being amazed by his fight actually catches him. Says, "I've got you, Spartan." As Deku was then taken to the hospital. The same hospital that Uraraka goes to as well. In canon, they go to a hospital just to have a quick check over. But this time they're going in for surgery. And only does the surgery. As Deku and Uraraka both go in for surgery to check on some stuff. As only has done a scan over both of them. 3 of their implants were completely destroyed, so they had to replace all the implants. And that takes them another few months, so their operation had to be cancelled until they were fully healed. Eventually, when they were fully healed, they went on the operation and found the planet that they were found Arcadia and actually did their mission. But this is where they first meet a new kind of enemy. They meet a Senhili warrior covered in silver armor. As a lot of the Senhili bow to him, as they say in perfect English, Arbiter. As Zuka Midoriya, Uraraka, and the others see him as he says, I care not for this religion and all that. As the other Senhili that are around him say, but sir, it's our holy cause. As he says, I care not for my own life, and I care not for our prophets and our gods. The prophets have their own gods, and they just told us to follow them. As they say that the gods will lead us into this holy ground or holy area. I do not believe it. This so-called great journey was nothing but a lie, and I found that out by snooping through one of the so-called higher-ups' little office area. The prophet of truth, the prophet of regret, and another prophet. Prophet of regret, I think it was. The prophet of truth and regret, and that other prophet all agreed that their race was superior if they could constantly trick us. The next race they are going to trick is the Jurohane, or as these humans will soon call them, brutes. This covenant is not the one I wish to fight for anymore. As he says, I devour the covenant for its treachery and its lies. As he throws a hologram forward of the prophets talking, and they say the exact same words he just said. As the elites, as the Senhili elites of the grunts and jackals that were actually nearby all heard this, they all found the banners of the covenant and tore them down, burning them. As several of the groups are still fanatically religious as they attack each other, the Spartans just, in the end, mop them all up, but leave the Arbiter alone. Considering he was near death, as they call for a pelican, saying, we're bringing one prisoner along. As this Senhili elite says, hang on a minute, guys. Okay, sorry about that. As the Senhili, going back to the story, as the Senhili elite says, I do not want to be taken prisoner. I am honor bound to fight. But with the covenant betraying my race, I am willing to go as your prisoner. In a show of good faith that my intel is good, I was transmitting all of this through our own communications before you arrived, so all my brothers and sisters know that our race was about to be backstabbed by the prophets. They heard everything the prophets said. I won't be surprised if the prophets heard as well. Take me to your leaders, and I will give them more information and more ways to destroy our cruisers. As before he could say anything else, a brute hammer slams into his head and knocks off his helmet and crushes his head. As these brutes turn up, saying, "The prophets always knew that these weaklings were going to try something. Now we have several human Spartans or sorts to kill. Yes, we know of you. You're all demons. But demons can still be killed." As he throws a Spartan corpse at him, not breathing. "This one was stupid enough to think he could take us out alone. We showed him pretty well." As eventually the brutes get into a fighting stance along with the Spartans. But as soon as they get into a fighting stance, the Pelican turns up with 10 more Spartans as they all start firing at the brutes, taking them all down. Eventually, they go back as they hear that Reach has been attacked, or was being attacked by the Covenant. They thought it was the local insurrection, but it turned out to be the Covenant. As they all head for the spaceport of Reach, tons of cruisers were already there defending the planet. As eventually they were overrun, as a few hours later, more Covenant cruisers turned up. But the Covenant cruisers had their shields down as they were launching fighters, so the Unity used that time to launch macro rounds and nuclear warheads, taking down a good chunk of the Covenant forces. But the battle for Reach was raging on. Eventually, the Covenant were pushed back, but then a super heavy carrier, like a super carrier, turns up, which was called the Grave Threat. The Grave Thread, like the threads of a string, not like, you know what I mean. Eventually, Noble team with Noble 6, along with the Headhunters, along with Izuku Midoriya and Uraraka Ochako, who are fully healed from their injuries, talk about destroying the Great Thread. As eventually they destroy it, but George ended up giving his life like he does in canon. The game canon, anyway. Noble 5's position then went to Izuku, as he declined, saying, "Sorry, but I'm a headhunter. And I'm a teacher as well. Someone's got to train the next generation of Spartans." As Uraraka declines it as well, saying, "Sorry. But like him, I'm also a teacher and a headhunter. We both train the next generation." And the group behind us, they're not experienced enough to take the position of George. As good as a man as he was, he can't be replaced that easily. As Carter and Kat agree, along with Emil, Noble Six, and June. There's eventually Dot, their AI companion, gives them the location of the Saber program. As Kat says that our newest member was definitely not a pilot. The whole same thing happens in canon. This is when George was killed. Eventually, Noble teams ended up sacrificing their lives to save Reach. And Noble Six, with the help of Izuku and the others, held out long enough for a stealth ship to pick them up and leave. But Noble Six stayed behind, saying, "This is my world. Now, if this place is going to die, I'm going to die along with it. Godspeed, Spartans." There's Izuku Midoriya and Radhika Ochako both scream, saying, "No, get on board now. You're like a brother to us, so don't leave us like this now. Yes, this may be your world, but there's something called fight another day, and the will of the planet still lives within you." As he then turns and says, "Midoriya, you and your mother before your sister were born used to live here on Reach. So you're the last Spartan of Reach. Through you, we live on. Don't let our sacrifices be in vain." As he walks off to face the Covenant once more. As Suzuki takes off his helmet and throws it at a wall. As he starts to beat down on something, saying, "Damn it, damn it, damn it, damn it, damn it. Why did you have to go and decide to be a fucking hero? I promise, Noble Six, the Covenant will not get Earth. Not as I draw breath. Not as we all draw breath. The Covenant will not get on Earth." As they all leave. And like in canon, Noble Six, like in the game, as you play Noble Six, he holds out for as long as he can. After a few more years, Master Chief finally returns. Using a distress signal, a ship goes to pick him up in that fighter, in the longsword. As Deku says, the Covenant, they got Reach. As the Chief says, "I know, I was on the planet at the time. I did my best to hold off the Covenant myself. But in the end, I was told by Captain Keyes to get aboard the Pillar of Autumn. Her sister ship, the Pillar of Fire, was destroyed. So you are now officially the last Spartan of Reach. We'll make sure, Titan, we will make sure that Reach is never forgotten about." As he said, "Thank you, sir." Or should I say, "Thank you, father." As the Chief actually, lets his own emotions get a hold of him and actually hugs Izuku Midoriya and also hugs Ochako Uraraka, who was also there with him. As they all say, "How about we go to a bar and give our farewells to the planet?" As they all agree. After a few hours of drinking, they all go home. Azuka Midoriya and Ochako Araka being fairly, well, drunk-ish, walk around town for a bit to see everybody else. Eventually, they get home, and after they get the, well, I'm going to say this, they already had their armor off because they took it off so it can get repaired. So yeah, eventually they get home and lock the door so nobody else could get in. As they both go up to their room, to their bedrooms, as they, well, sort of go to sleep. Uraraka and, well, should I say Uraraka and Deku still being slightly drunk, gets a little bit frisky under the sheets. And I'm going to leave it there, guys. Like, comment, and subscribe. Bye.